Welcome on in, everybody. It is Fighters Fury here on 790 The Ticket. Tobin here with you. As the next hour, we'll dive all over the world of mixed martial arts and boxing. It was a nice switch up to have the early pay-per-view. We got it going bright-eyed and bushy-tailed right into the card. Rolled on in through the late afternoon as you had it starting at 2 o'clock on the pay-per-view side. Fun card. A lot of different types of submissions, a lot of different types of fights that were going down. But, of course, all of the headlines were surrounding the main event. You had Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Justin Gaethje. And a couple things. I went into this card. I went into this picking Nurmagomedov after picking against him in the last two fights. I told you guys I was off that train, that I was going to go to the area where I'm going to go with Khabib. I think that he'll handle Justin Gaethje, especially the way that he handled Dustin, and not to MMA math it, Justin losing to Dustin and all that type of stuff. But, I think the world of Dustin Poirier and his skill set, and I just felt that a little bit too much was being made of, what Justin was able to do in this fight. And it was honestly one of Nurmagomedov's easiest fights in recent memory. He diced through Justin Gaethje. Now, I don't know if that was just a case of style. I don't know if that was just a case of him having, the influence of taking his father's death, and, he was just on a mission. But he was so aggressive in this fight. We saw unbelievable, probably some of the best striking we've seen from Khabib, and I think that probably threw Justin Gaethje off. Gaethje was still able to land some of those big leg kicks. Maybe that would have been a problem if the fight went a little bit longer. Maybe that had something to do with Khabib wanted to take him down like he did in that second round. But, it wasn't this domination that we've seen from that we probably thought you would have gotten from Justin. I think that's been one of the things that has been impressive with Nurmagomedov over this title run that he's gone on, really since, really ever since he got cracked by Michael Johnson. Everybody kind of thought that this is always going to be a guy who's very susceptible to getting beat up. But even if you go back to the Al Iaquinta fight, where kind of toyed around with it in the third round, even though he never really got Al out of there on short notice, some people were questioning what the skill set was, if the guy was really legitimately that good. But, these last three fights, him taking on guys who are perennial top five guys, nobody doubts the status of Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje in the division. And he's gotten better every time the fight's gone on. He got Conor out of there in 4, he got Dustin out of there in 3, and he got Justin Gaethje out of there in 2 rounds. And he just didn't, outside of those leg kicks, which did look like they were painful. And I know that Justin's corner was very confident that if they were able to keep doing that they were going to take him out. The only thing is, once the fight ever got to the ground, it was straight domination. He almost ended the first round with an arm bar, and it leaps into, he gets Justin down and starts going for this triangle choke almost immediately. It was so impressive. And then we get the news that he leaves out on top. That you could see it was important for him as the interview, before the interview started, they were taking off his gloves, which normally isn't, that's not normally something you do. You normally just leave them on and they'll take them off later. But he wanted to leave his gloves in the center of the octagon. Immediately, as soon as he choked out Justin Gaethje, which, by the way, it took a little bit. I mean, the referee was like, what's going on over there? Is he out? Oh, I guess he's out. As soon as he put him out, just goes to the center of the octagon, starts bawling. I'm getting the stingy eye. I'm getting all misty eyed because of, Khabib being all emotional about this. I think every fan was, because you knew that this fight was going to be a little different for him. He didn't have his father, who is so tied to his career, even though he hasn't, been there for all of the fights in the corner. He's always been there in his ear, always somebody that he's been able to lean on. And you could just see him overwhelmed by the emotion of what this win meant. And so once you saw that, I didn't find it very surprising that he was taking the gloves off, because there was talk about 30-0, and there was some mention of that number and all that type of stuff. But, unless unless there is some super fight with George St. Pierre down the line, and with Tony being in the position that he's in, that he has to build himself, I don't really know what else there really is for him, because he took the best guys in this division. He, chewed them up and spit them out. Like he really, really he didn't have a long title reign, but his title reign was so impressive with the guys that he beat and the way that he beat them. So what else is there to do? Like, do you just wait and, does he care about the Conor McGregor fight making a ton of money? Doesn't seem like he does. Does he need to prove anything against Dustin Poirier again? Not really. Does he need to fight Justin Gaethje again? Clearly not. Does he need to sit around and, beat Michael Chandler and prove something there? No. So it really does feel like he's done all there is to do there, and going away makes a little bit of sense, even with him at the prime of his career, unless there is some super fight down the line. This does seem legit. He said the thing that his mother didn't want him to fight without his father there. It's a very emotional time. I'm not saying that couldn't change at some point, but it doesn't really feel like right now that there needs to be. And this has been a very weird year. We've had DC retire. We've had John Jones kind of technically retire. Khabib is gone, now it seems like. So been a lot of changing of the guard, but this performance, I thought, was among his title reign, I think has been his best. I thought that, Justin looked very hesitant to strike. He clearly was in a stance where he was trying to avoid the takedown rather than impose his will. And that's odd from Justin. Justin's usually the guy where he's going to, he just walked down Tony Ferguson. He was the boogie, he out-boogied the boogeyman. And, it's usually the guy that's willing to walk through violence the entire time. And this one, I thought we just saw that he was looking to not get taken down and not get put away. And even with all those attempts, really, whenever it got to the ground, was in a bad position right away and was the first time nearly put away with an armbar, and then obviously in the second time was choked out pretty quickly. And really, I thought Khabib looked really, really good on the stand-up too. I thought that he looked confident. He looked like he wasn't scared of any shots, straight shots down the pipe. He, tried to almost put like a little jumping knee into Justin, so he was diverse. Just the best we've looked. I think we've seen him look in any title defense. So a fantastic performance for Khabib Nurmagomedov. All the best to him. What a career it is. Everybody was talking about GOAT status and where he lies and all that type of stuff. I certainly think that he gets a seat at the table to argue that. I still think, and a couple of things that go in his way. One, people have regarded 155 now as the best division in the sport. I would say for probably a good 5 years, people have been talking about this as the deepest division, the best division. And so out of all of that, all the rivalries, Conor, Tony, Dustin, even Max Holloway trying to come up and have a stint, Justin Gaethje, Cowboy Cerrone, all those names, and he comes out on top as the guy. I think that has to have a huge feather in your cap as far as your status in the division. I think that his versatility got a lot better as the fights went on. I think that this is clearly a guy. I mean, he's only 32 years old. He still has probably a little bit of cooking that he could do as far as getting better if he wanted to. No losses. No test issues, none of that stuff. Really, the only really red flag that he has over his career is the missing weight. That's really his the lone blemish on Khabib's record, is that he had the Tony Ferguson thing where he missed weight and wasn't able to compete in that one fight, and then missed weight way back in like 2016. That's really the only crux. Now, there was some controversy this week. I'll save that for later on in the show. I don't really think it's warranted to get into that right now. But yeah, this is great. I will say, With how easily he beat Justin, it's still, if this is the end of his career, the one thing that is going to be a bummer is that we never got the Tony Ferguson fight. Thinking about all the times they tried to make it, it really was a cursed bout. But you think even about the pandemic and like the idea that they were finally going to get it, and then we were saying, well, they're not going to do it with no fans there, and then it was going to be in Abu Dhabi, and then it was going to be in Vegas, and then it was going to be on Fight Island. It was going to be all these other places, and it just never came to fruition. And so Tony still went through and made the fight happen. Obviously, Nurmagomedov had something really tragic happen in his family at the same time too, and the idea that those two never got in an octagon together to fight is a huge bummer, even with Tony losing the way that he did to Gaethje, because there still is that what if factor, I think, with Tony, and especially the dynamics that he brings on the ground, the comfortability that he has being on his back. We're always going to wonder. Now, watching Tony lose and watching the way it seems like Nurmagomedov gets better, I think the more time that goes on, people will probably think, Khabib would have gotten the better of him anyway, but maybe not. Who knows? It's just a bummer that we never got to find out what it holds. So, we didn't get much from Nurmagomedov afterwards. He didn't talk to the media. Dana White did reveal that he was fighting this fight with a broken foot, which is interesting. That he actually had with the same injury that Conor had when he fought him. And so now he probably gets a little bit of bragging rights there. Some of the reaction that went down, I know Conor had some little write-off note to him. He said, good performance from Khabib. I will carry on. Respect and condolences to your father again, also to you and your family. Yours sincerely, the McGregors. Poirier, Dustin Poirier, who was also in there, he tweeted out undisputed. And I'm sure he's now going to be in the running for whatever comes of this title picture. Tony Ferguson, let's see, did Tony tweet anything out about this? Nothing from Tony. And then Michael Chandler was obviously... Michael Chandler, I'm sure, is disappointed because I know that he's one of those guys where he came into this thinking that he was going to get a crack at Khabib, one of the things that he came to UFC for. And now he doesn't get a crack at him, it seems, right now. So it was a great performance, man. What a career. Yeah, so as far as his GOAT status is concerned, I'm a guy, I'm still going to put John number one. I'm not one of these guys that's going to, because the UFC was so Wild West with the PEDs in his era, he did get flagged twice. So, I can understand people who want to put him down. I do think that John's greatness and the longevity of his reign and all the people that he's taken out, I do think that is so impressive, especially at the age that he was at. For me, it's going to be hard to ever dethrone him, even if you could say he's not as dominant as Nurmagomedov was. I still think that he's still the guy, and obviously has a chance to still add on to that legacy if he becomes the heavyweight champion of the world. GSP, reigning over welterweight the way that he did in his era, as well-rounded. I still think that I think one of the things that Khabib probably is going to have over GSP, though, is GSP is always going to have the nation of Canada behind him and stuff like that. But, one of the things about GSP that I do think was a fair criticism is that it felt like he found the best paths to go win fights, but they weren't necessarily the most exciting. That's why I was never just the biggest GSP fan. Like, he could take away your best weapons, but, just the imposing of will. I just think Nurmagomedov has just shown that next level of dominance that has really been birthed from his career. For me, I think that he has an argument to be above GSP. I really, really do. Even if the title reign wasn't as long, I still think that if this is the end of his career, seeing the way that he went out compared to the way GSP did, I'm mostly talking about the welterweight reign, not his win over Bisping, even though that was impressive. I do think there are arguments there. Mighty Mouse, you know, always going to have, I think, a seat at the table too, but it is flyweight. I do think that you lose a little bit of steam there because of that division. And then Amanda Nunes, her greatness is she's with everything, obviously being in a different gender, she has no one can touch her on anybody that she could compete with on the women's side of this thing. Reigned over 2 divisions, beat beat every person that anybody considered a GOAT. She demolished. So I think definitely she's there too. It's great. This is one of those sports too. I just think that so many guys are so good at so many different things that it probably makes a tougher argument. But I would say right now, yeah, Khabib is probably 2 or 3 on my list. Johnson's going to be number 1 for me, and I still think that he has room to even grow that legacy a little bit more. But what a career. What a career. If that was the end of it, it was a great performance. We'll get into a little bit more of the card. And obviously there is a big hole now at 155 pounds. Where do they go with the title fight